My family humiliated me at my birthday in front of everyone for being a failure. But when my aunt gave me a blank check and revealed my golden child sister was her abandoned biological daughter, the revenge I took left them completely broke. I'm 19 years old. I study accounting at university, and it's been like 3 months since I've talked to my parents or my sister, Sophia. And honestly, I don't plan on ever doing it again. I know it sounds extreme, like, who says that about their own family? But when you hear the whole story, you'll understand why I got to this point. Everything exploded on my birthday a few months ago, but really this had been building up for years. Basically since my parents adopted Sophia when I was like a year and a half old. I don't remember much from before Sophia arrived, obviously. But my parents always told me the story of how they adopted her, and they always told it like it was this magical moment that completed our family, as if I alone hadn't been enough, you know? For as long as I can remember, Sophia was always the princess of the house, and I was like the invisible older sister who existed in the background. And when I say she was always the favorite, I'm not exaggerating or being dramatic. It was so obvious that even the neighbors noticed. When we were little, if we both wanted the same toy, guess who got it? If there was only one piece of cake in the fridge, it was for Sophia. If my parents had to choose which school recital to go to because they fell at the same time, they always went to Sophia's, and I'd be looking for them from the stage, searching through the audience, and they were never there. One time in 3rd grade, I won first place in a statewide math competition, like it was something important to me because I had worked so hard, and when I got home all excited to tell them, my mom barely looked up from her phone and said, "Oh, that's nice, honey. But look what Sophia drew today at school." And she showed me this super basic drawing of a house with the sun and clouds. I stood there with my trophy in my hands, feeling like an idiot. As we grew up, things only got worse. Sophia was and still is one of the most spoiled and entitled people I've ever met in my life, and my parents never said no to her about anything. Literally, nothing. When she turned 16, she wanted a giant party, like a quinceañera, but American version. You know, with a DJ, professional photographer, expensive decorations, the dress had to be designer. She invited like 200 people between her school friends and random people she barely knew, but had to invite because they were popular. My parents spent like $15,000 on that party. I'm not exaggerating. I know because I heard my mom complaining about the credit card bill, but they did it anyway. And when I turned 18 the following year, you know what I got? A dinner at Olive Garden with my parents and Sophia, and they didn't even let me choose the restaurant. Sophia complained that she wanted to go there, and my parents gave in immediately. The favoritism was constant and in everything. Sophia had the biggest room in the house with her own bathroom. I shared the bathroom with my parents. She had a closet full of brand name clothes. I bought my clothes at Target and Forever 21 with the money I earned, working part-time at a coffee shop. When it came time to apply to universities, my parents paid Sophia a private tutor who cost $100 an hour to prepare her for the SAT. They told me to study on my own with YouTube videos. She ended up with a mediocre score anyway and applied to expensive private universities. I got a high score and applied to state schools because I knew my parents weren't going to pay more than that for me, if they paid anything at all. The saddest part is that I really tried to have a good relationship with Sophia when we were little. Like I wanted to be the cool older sister who took care of her and defended her, but she always treated me like garbage. She'd steal my stuff, and when I confronted her, she'd run crying to my parents, and they'd scold me for accusing her without proof. One time she stole $200 that I had saved working for months to buy myself a laptop for school. I found them hidden in her room under the mattress. And when I showed my parents, she said I had put them there to get her in trouble. And my parents believed her. Can you believe that? I didn't get my money back. And on top of that, they grounded me for a month for being a manipulative liar. Those were my dad's exact words. Sophia was also super conceited and loved rubbing in my face everything she had that I didn't. When she turned 17, my parents bought her a brand new 2020 Honda Civic. And she came home driving it all proud and told me, "Hey sis, nice bus, right?" Because I took the bus everywhere. I was only 18 at that time, and I worked and studied and saved every penny I could, and she didn't even have a job. My parents gave her everything. The day I finally saved enough to buy my own used car, a 2015 Toyota Corolla that I got for $8,000. I came home super excited because it was mine. I had paid for it myself with my money, and Sophia laughed in my face and said, "Are you serious? You bought that piece of junk?" That looks like a poor person's car." My parents were there when she said it, and they said nothing. My mom even laughed a little like it was funny. So things continued like that for years, me basically living as a second-class citizen in my own family, and my 19th birthday came this year in February. I honestly didn't expect much. I never expected anything from my parents in that sense, but Sophia was planning her 18th birthday party for March, and she was obsessed with it being perfect and huge and expensive. She talked about it literally every single day. My mom told me that for my birthday, they were going to have a small family lunch at the house. Nothing special. And I said, okay, that's fine. At that point, I wasn't even bothered anymore. On my birthday, I came home from work at the coffee shop around 6 p.m., yeah? I worked on my birthday because I needed the money for rent for my room at university. And when I walked into the house, there were like 15 people. There, my parents, Sophia, some aunts and uncles, my grandparents, and my Aunt Karen, who is my mom's sister. My Aunt Karen had always been kind of distant with the family. She never came much to family gatherings, and I knew she was a super successful executive at a big tech company and made a ton of money, but that was all I knew about her. I was surprised to see her there, to be honest. There was a table with food, nothing special, like pizza and wings they had ordered, and a basic supermarket cake. Everyone said happy birthday. When I walked in and I said thanks and sat down to eat something because I was hungry. Honestly, everything was kind of awkward, because I knew Sophia was annoyed that there was any kind of celebration for me when her super party was in a month. I could see it on her face. She was sitting there with her arms crossed making faces. After eating the cake, my dad said that Sophia had prepared a speech for me. And inside I thought, oh no, this is going to be bad. Because Sophia never did anything nice for me. But well, she stood up in front of everyone with her phone in her hand like she was going to read something she had written. And what happened next was probably the most humiliating moment of my life. Sophia started by saying, "Happy birthday, sister," and everyone was smiling, expecting her to say nice things. But then she said, "On this special day, I want to take a moment to be honest with you and with everyone here." She started saying that I was a failure, that my whole life had been mediocre, that I had never accomplished anything important, that I dressed like a homeless person. Those were her exact words. That my car was an embarrassment, that I studied accounting because I wasn't smart enough for something better, that I was probably going to end up working in a miserable cubicle the rest of my life, barely making minimum wage. She went on, like for about 5 full minutes, destroying me in front of my entire family, and I was sitting there feeling smaller and smaller, my hands were shaking, and I felt like I was going to cry, but I didn't want to give her that satisfaction. The worst part is that my parents didn't stop her. Nobody stopped her. Everyone was sitting there listening to her in silence, some looking at the floor like uncomfortable, but nobody said a single word to defend me. When Sophia finished her speech, everyone applauded. They literally applauded, and she sat down super smiley like she had just given the motivational speech of the year. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to run out of there, but I was like paralyzed in my chair. And then something happened that changed everything. My Aunt Karen stood up, went over to where Sophia was, and told her, "I need to talk to you and your parents in private. Now." Her tone was serious, like I'm not joking, and my parents looked confused, but they got up, and the 4 of them went to the kitchen. I stayed in the living room with the rest of the family, and everyone was whispering among themselves, but nobody was talking to me. It was super awkward. About 10 minutes passed, and suddenly we heard Sophia scream from the kitchen, and then my mom was yelling too, and then my Aunt Karen came out of the kitchen super calm and approached me. She told me, "Hey, sweetie, come with me for a second," and she took me outside to the front of the house where her car was, a super elegant Mercedes. She told me, "Look, there's something you need to know," and she told me something that basically blew my mind. Turns out Sophia wasn't just my adoptive sister. Sophia was my Aunt Karen's biological daughter. My aunt had had her when she was like 22 years old. She wasn't ready to be a mother because she was starting her corporate career and didn't have time or resources. So my mom, who is her older sister, offered to adopt her and raise her as her own daughter. My aunt for all these years had been sending my parents money for Sophia's expenses, basically paying them to raise her, and apparently she had been sending quite a bit of money, like enough to explain all the expensive things Sophia always had. My aunt told me that she had always known how my parents treated me, that she had seen the favoritism for years but had kept quiet because she didn't feel she had the right to give opinions about how they raised their children, but that after what Sophia had just done to me on my own birthday, she couldn't stay quiet anymore. She told me she had brought something for me. She took out an envelope from her purse, and when I opened it inside, there was a check. But it didn't have an amount written on it. It was blank, except for my name as the beneficiary and my aunt's signature. I stared at it, not understanding, and my aunt told me, "Fill in whatever amount you want. Whatever you need for your education. For your future. Whatever. It's yours." I couldn't believe it. Like, I literally couldn't process what was happening. I told her, "Are you serious?" And she said completely, "Serious." She told me that for years she had been saving money for Sophia for when she turned 18. It was like a huge college fund. But that after seeing the kind of person Sophia had become, she didn't want to give her a single cent. She told me, "You're the one who deserves help. You're the one who has worked hard and been treated like garbage by your own family, and I want to do something to help you." I started crying right there. Like I couldn't control it. It was too much. At that moment, Sophia came running out of the house towards us, yelling, "That's mine. That money is mine. Give me that." She tried to grab the check from my hands, but my aunt stopped her and told her, "Don't you dare touch her." And Sophia started having like a complete hysterical fit, screaming and crying and saying it wasn't fair, that money belonged to her, that I didn't deserve it. My parents came out and they were also super upset. My mom was crying and my dad was yelling at my aunt that she had no right to do this, that they had raised Sophia all these years and that she owed them that money. My aunt stayed super calm and told them that she was Sophia's biological mother and that she had every right to decide what to do with her money, and that after years of watching how they treated their niece while they spoiled Sophia until they turned her into a monster, she had made her decision. My parents told Sophia to apologize to me, like they forced her to do it right there. And Sophia, through tears, told me, "I'm sorry," but I could see in her eyes she didn't mean it at all. She was only saying it because my parents were forcing her. I told them her apology meant nothing to me and that I was leaving. I went into the house to get my bag, and when I came out, my parents blocked the exit and told me I couldn't leave until I gave the check to Sophia, that I didn't understand how important that money was for her future, that I could get student loans, but Sophia needed it more. I couldn't believe it. After everything that had happened, after years of treating me like a second-class citizen, they still expected me to give everything to Sophia. I told them no, that the check was mine, that my aunt had given it to me, and to forget about it. My dad's face turned super red, and he yelled at me that I was selfish and ungrateful, that they had given me a roof over my head for 19 years, and that I owed them this. My aunt intervened and said that if they kept pressuring me, she was going to stop sending them the monthly money she had been giving them all these years for Sophia's expenses, and that shut them up pretty quickly. I told my parents I was going to stay with my aunt for now and that I didn't want to talk to them. I got in my aunt's Mercedes with my bag and the check still in my hand, and we left. As we were leaving the neighborhood, I could see through the rearview mirror, Sophia and my parents standing at the entrance of the house watching us go. The next few days were total chaos. My parents bombarded me with text messages and calls, literally like 100 messages a day between the two of them. At first, they tried the kind approach, saying they missed me and to please come home so we could talk, but when I didn't respond, they started getting more aggressive. My mom sent me a super long message saying I was destroying the family, that Sophia was devastated. How could I be so cruel to my own sister? My dad told me that if I didn't come back and give them the check, they were going to cut me off completely, that I wouldn't be welcome in their house ever again. After like a week of constant messages, I sent them just one. I told them I was willing to consider giving them the check under two non-negotiable conditions. First, that they apologize to me publicly, like on Facebook or Instagram where all the family and their friends could see it, admitting all the mistreatment and favoritism for years. Second, that they publicly disown Sophia, that they say they no longer considered her their daughter, with the same level of publicity. Obviously, I knew they would never accept those conditions, like it was impossible, but I wanted to watch them suffer a little, trying to decide what to do. And oh man, the way they reacted was gold. My mom called me crying, saying how could I ask them for something like that that was too cruel, that Sophia was their daughter no matter what. I told her, well then I guess my check is more important to me than your relationship with Sophia is to you. And I hung up. During the next few days, I kept getting messages, but now my parents were fighting with each other too. My mom sent me screenshots of their conversations where my dad said maybe they should consider my conditions because that money could be a lot, and my mom told him he was crazy. How could he even think about betraying Sophia like that? Sophia also sent me messages, at first trying to play the victim, saying she hadn't meant to hurt me on my birthday, that she was just being honest, to please reconsider because she really needed that money for her education. When I didn't respond, she started insulting me, called me a bitch, told me she hoped I'd die, really nasty things. I blocked her number, but she started sending me messages from different numbers. Apparently, she had gotten burner phones or was asking her friends to send me messages on her behalf. About 2 weeks in, I sent them another message. I told them, "You know what? The truth is, I never intended to give you the check. This whole time I was just playing with you to see how far you were willing to go, and it turned out not very far because in the end, Sophia is still more important to you than doing the right thing." I told them that my aunt had given me that check because she saw my value when you never did, and that I was going to use that money to build my future far away from them. I told them I never wanted to hear from any of them ever again. The response was predictable. My mom sent me like 50 messages telling me I was a horrible person, manipulative, psychopath. How could I play with my family's feelings like that? My dad sent me a single message that said, "You no longer have a family. To us, you're dead." Sophia sent me a message from another number telling me she was going to make me regret it, that she was going to find a way to take that check from me, that this wasn't over. I blocked all of them from my phone and all my social media, but Sophia didn't give up easily. She started making burner accounts on Instagram and Facebook so she could keep sending me messages because I had blocked her real accounts. The messages ranged from pathetic pleas like, "Please, sister, help me," to direct threats, saying she was coming for me. I just kept blocking every new account she made, but it was super exhausting. Like every day there was a new account. One day, about 3 weeks after the incident, I was at my aunt's house. She had a huge, beautiful house in a nice neighborhood because she made so much money working on an essay for university in the dining room when I heard someone knocking on the door super hard, like banging on it. My aunt was at work, so I was alone in the house. I went to the door and looked through the peephole, and it was Sophia. She looked super agitated, with her hair all messy and her eyes red like she had been crying. She started yelling, "Let me in! I know you're in there! I need to talk to you." I didn't open the door, obviously. I told her through the door to leave or I was going to call the police, but she kept yelling and banging on the door. She was saying things like, "This is your fault. You ruined my life. Give me what's mine." I called my aunt on her cell and she told me to call the police immediately. But before I could do it, Sophia left. I saw her through the window, get in her Honda, and drive away super fast. I sent my aunt a message telling her Sophia had left, and she told me she was going to come home early from Lodegraim, work to make sure I was okay. That night when my aunt arrived, she sat me down and asked me how I was feeling about all this. I told her honestly that I felt weird. Like on one hand, I was furious with my family for everything they had done to me, but on the other hand, I felt like guilt, as if maybe I was being too cruel to Sophia. My aunt told me it was normal to feel that, but that I had nothing to feel guilty about. That Sophia and my parents had created this situation themselves with their actions for years, and that I was simply protecting my future and my mental well-being. About 2 days later, things escalated even more. It was like 8 p.m., and my aunt and I were watching a movie in the living room when we heard voices outside, and then more knocking on the door. This time, it wasn't just Sophia, it was my parents too, and all three were yelling for me to open the door. My aunt stood up and said, "I'm going to talk to them," but she told them to stay outside. When she opened the door, Sophia tried to force her way in, but my aunt stopped her and told her she was on private property without permission and had 10 seconds to leave before she called the police. My dad started yelling at my aunt that she had poisoned my mind against them, that she had no right to interfere in their family, that she had abandoned Sophia 18 years ago, so she had no right to decide anything about her future now. My mom was crying, saying, "Please, we just want to talk to her. Just let us talk to our daughter." I was inside listening to everything, and I felt so many emotions I didn't even know what to think. I was angry and sad and confused all at the same time. My aunt told them that if they didn't leave immediately, she was going to call the police. And right at that moment, Sophia pushed my aunt and managed to get into the house. She ran to where I was in the living room and started yelling in my face. She grabbed my arm super hard and was telling me, "Give me the check now. Give it to me, or I swear I'm going to hurt you." I was trying to get away, but she had me grabbed tight and was hurting me. My aunt ran towards us and separated Sophia from me. She literally had to push her to make her let go, and Sophia fell to the floor. My parents ran in when they saw Sophia fall, and my dad yelled at my aunt, "How dare she push his daughter?" that he was going to sue her for assault. By that time, the neighbors had heard all the commotion, and someone had called the police. We heard the sirens approaching. Sophia was on the floor, crying like hysterically. screaming that I had stolen her future, that she hated me, that she wished I had never been born. My parents were consoling her and looking at me like I was a monster. When the police arrived, my aunt explained the whole situation to them, told them she was the owner of the house, that my family was there without permission, and that Sophia had assaulted me. The officers asked my parents and Sophia to leave and warned them that if they came back, they would arrest them for harassment. Sophia kept screaming as the police escorted them to their car, telling me this wasn't over, that I was going to pay for what I had done. My parents didn't even look at me. They just left with Sophia. After that, my aunt hired a lawyer to send a cease and desist letter to my family, basically a legal order telling them to stop contacting me or face legal consequences. The messages stopped after that. Finally, I went back to university a week later for the start of the spring semester. My aunt helped me move into a better apartment than the shitty room I had before, bought me furniture, gave me a new laptop for school, and yes, I cashed the check. I wrote an amount that covered the rest of my entire college career plus extra money for living expenses, and my aunt honored it without asking any questions. With that money, I no longer need to work at the coffee shop. I can focus completely on my studies, and for the first time in my life, I feel like someone really believes in me and my future. I changed my phone number, made all my social media private, and basically disappeared from my family's life. The last time I heard anything about them was like a month ago when a distant cousin sent me a message on Facebook telling me that Sophia had had to apply to community college because my parents didn't have money to pay for a private university like she wanted, and that she blamed me for everything. Apparently, she's working at a retail store to pay her own expenses because my aunt followed through on her threat and stopped sending them monthly money. My cousin asked me if I didn't feel even a little bit guilty about Sophia's situation, and I told her no, zero. I explained everything that had happened over the years, and she went quiet, then told me she didn't know things had been that bad and that she understood my decision. Now I'm in my second year of college. My grades are the best I've ever had. I have a nice apartment, a car that works, and an aunt who truly supports me. My mom tried to send me a message 2 weeks ago from an unknown number. It just said, "I miss you, honey," but I didn't respond. Part of me still feels something when I think about them. I don't know if it's nostalgia or what, but most of the time I just feel relief that I no longer have to live in that toxic house, being treated like garbage. Sophia is 19 now, and I guess she's finally learning what it's like to work for what you want, although I doubt she'll ever really understand why things ended the way they did. And my parents? Well, they made their choice a long time ago when they decided one daughter was worth more than the other. Now they have to live with the consequences of those years of favoritism and emotional neglect towards me. I don't plan on ever talking to them again, and honestly, I'm at peace with that.